Howdy, I'm Derek, and in this video I'm going to walk through 5 new features within the XLEV8 Excel Add-in as a part of the Q4 2025 release. So, first of these 5 is going to add a little bit of polish if you have data in a pivot table-like structure where you have columns that have headers, you have row headers, and you have data that's summarized. Now this requires that you have a header cell in the top left corner that has exactly 2 lines on it, like you're seeing here, so location and department. Okay, so what this is going to do when you run it, and you could set a shortcut. I usually just search for this because I don't do it that often. Look for the word split corner header right there. And all it really does is it's going to shift the top part of that, the top line, to the right, and then the bottom part is going to be remaining on the left, and it's going to put a diagonal border through that cell, making it obvious which part the header relates to. So location would refer to these cells at the top, and then department would refer to the ones on the left. Now it's not dynamic, it's putting a bunch of spaces up here at the very top. So unfortunately there's no way to really do this formally, but if you need to adjust it because you have new data and it looks a little bit off, just run it again, it'll override the previous setting. So that's the first one. Second one is called bulk file export. Many times you might have to do a lot of stuff in Excel to set up data for the purpose of implementing or maintaining software. I've had to do it many, many times. Recently I had to do it where there were like 30 different sheets in a file. I think that was the most I've ever had to do. And it was a pain, save as, like several times. So hence creating this, okay? Now to show you that this hasn't been run yet, I'm going to come over here and we've got this folder set up for testing purposes. Okay, there's nothing in there right now. That's the folder that we're referring to here in the save folder column. So we can choose whether to create it or not. In case you want to have conditionals, you could have that be a formula. Say, hey, yes, all these, but not this one or whatever, if you're going to reuse it over and over again. What sheet are you going to export? What range name or range address, if you don't have it named. Which folder is going to save in, and what file name and file type. So CSV and TXT are by far the most common here. Could also be a XLSX file if you wanted to. So we're going to search for this one as well. Bulk file export right there. Okay, it's going to confirm, do you want to do that? Because this is going to create new files. So we're going to proceed. Notice a little bit happening there. And those 3 files, just like we wanted to, are now saved within that folder. Okay. Very, very easy. Very similarly, okay, let's say that you need to create a bunch of files. Maybe you're going to distribute them to people out in the field. I worked in restaurants and retail a lot, so we were sending data out into the field to the location managers quite a bit. Now, there are many apps that can do this very well. If you don't happen to have one of those, where reporting just isn't that great, this is a great option. So if you can get data in a template like this, okay, there's other ways to do this. If you have a whole bunch of sheets, you need to split those out. Okay, there's other tools for that. This one is specifically for when you want to run calculations. So notice we have a template here, very, very basic for this example. You've got a couple of things that you might want to update, and then you have all of these formulas here are going to leverage the date and the store or whatever inputs you have. So you would need to update those, let it recalculate, and then save off a version. That's what this is going to do. Okay, so if we come back over here and look through the settings, when you run this one, initially it's going to create this sheet, then you fill it in, then you run it again to process it. So what sheet name do we want to update? What range name or address do we want to update? Okay, what value or formula do we want to use? So if it's always hard-coded, great. If it's based on a calculation, that's fine. Put a formula there. And then optionally, where do you want to save it? And if you do, what sheets do you want to save? So in this case, we're going to save the template sheet and the dateless sheet at the bottom. Now that's optional because you may want to update multiple values and let it recalculate before you do that. You can run as many different calculations as you want and then create a new file. In this case, we're going to update the date, then the store, then save a version, then update the store, then a version, etc. And then update the date again before we do it again. Okay, so that's what we've got going on here. Now when we run this one, again, you would have filled this in. Okay, create files by value is the macro we want to run. Okay, it's going to update, calculate, and then save those files down as you would expect it to. Okay, so give it just a couple of seconds based on how many you have. It'll tell you how many ranges were updated and files that were created. And if we come over here, now we've got those 12 files, or sorry, those 10 files with the 12 values that are within the workbook. So from there, you could also have a separate macro that could automatically send those to all the different people, move them, copy them, whatever the case might be. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4 in this quarter's update is the ability to quickly add data bars to your pivot table. Okay, I saw somebody do this recently. I thought that's really cool, and it involved a lot of clicks. I thought, you know what? Let's make a macro to do this automatically. Okay, now it is its own macro within the add-in, but it's also part of the pivot picker, which is great because there's several options that you can use to make pivot tables more useful for you, formatting or otherwise. So with your data cell highlighted, and that's key, okay? So we have, in this case, just dates, or it could be location, or whatever your kind of row label is. You need to have the data highlighted or selected, okay? And when you do, I'm just going to run the pivot picker, and this is going to be option B here for add bars to the values, okay? Notice what it does. It adds those data bars. They're a part of conditional formatting, okay? So you could see that over here in conditional formatting, right? Now, it also removes, notice there's numbers here. So up at the top, you see the numbers, but it hides those. There's an option to do that, as well as hide the total value at the very bottom, okay? And it also relabels that to say data bars instead of duplicating, because it's the same exact field. See, the number is the exact same. It's just showing a data bar. So probably 15 or so clicks just in one to give your pivot table a little bit more pop and make it easy to understand how those values relate to each other. And then lastly, saw somebody recently say, hey, wouldn't it be nice to be able to highlight cells that have comments if it wasn't obvious enough with those little red triangles in the corner, and then be able to filter on that. Okay, so what this lets you do is either highlight your selection, or if it's a part of filtered data, it'll just do the entire filter data set. Okay, and it will apply conditional formatting when there is a comment. So it uses a UDF, a user-defined function, in the background. Now you could search for this one itself. It would be CF highlight comments. Okay, so there that is. Or you can run it as a part of the conditional formatting picker. Lots of awesome other conditional formats you can add. They're kind of custom and unique here. We're going to use option M. Now, when I say comment, this is legacy comments, okay? It's not the new threaded ones. These are now known more as notes, but so much documentation out there is still comments, so I could still call them that. Just press option F there, okay? And it's going to do a couple of things. After a second or so, you'll see that I've got this very light shade of gray that you can use to highlight with. And then if you want, you can use the filter picker to say, hey, let's filter to the color of the active cell. Doesn't matter if it's conditional or if it's fixed. Now you can filter to comments and make them more obvious. You can change that color. I specifically use the default color that's not really, not over the top obvious. I wanted to keep it kind of subtle, but you can do whatever you want there. Now, the way that this one works is behind the scenes, it's adding conditional formatting to say, hey, does it have comments in it? Now, you can't directly reference a UDF within conditional formatting, so there is also a lambda function that just basically refers to the UDF. Kind of a weird way to do that, but if you've ever needed to reference a UDF in conditional formatting, there's a workaround there with a lambda, or you can just reference it directly in there as a part of something else. All right, that's it for the quarterly update of Q4 2025. 5 helpful new features that will let you excel with ease, save you time, reduce errors. If you like this, make sure that you download a copy and try it out of the XLEV8 Excel Add-in. There's a link in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please hit subscribe so you don't miss out on other great tools and tips and tricks. Tell us what you liked with a comment, or give it a like and share with the people that you know that also love to save time in Excel. Thanks for watching, and have an excellent rest of your day.